Hi everyone, this is Ida with CreateSupplies.com. I'm going to share with you a project that I'm going to work on, and I'm going to do it on, I'm going to make a video, a process video, so you'll know everything that I'm doing. But I'm going to show you a couple of the things that I'm going to use, and as I keep incorporating more things into the project, I will also show those to you. Now, this box I'm going to turn into a sewing box, and I'm gonna make it look vintage. So usually I would paint around all these edges, wherever there's a drawer, wherever there's a corner. I would paint it, whether it be black, brown, whatever color I decided to do it, and then I would line it with my paper, and you would see the edges on it. In this case, I'm not going to paint it because I'm okay with the color of the paper, but I don't like the monkeys and stuff. I'll show you. There's monkeys and stuff all over it, and I don't like that. And I'm going to show you what the box looks like. It had a clock on the inside, and I took that out, and then when we're finished, we'll see what the finished project ends up looking like, because I know what you know right now. I don't know where it's going. I'm just going to do something to it. But I'm going to show you the inside of the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the hinges, all the knobs, everything off so I can add paper to it, and then I'm going to replace all the knobs back where they go. But this is what the box looks like. I'm going to open it up and show you. In here, right in there, was a clock that I took out, and I'll show you the inside of the clock. Here's the inside of that clock that was in there with the hands that I took out, and it was inside this little frame, and then of course it had the plastic dome on it. So we're going to do some kind of sewing something collage in that, but I'm going to take it out for now because I want you to see what we're going to do with it. And this door actually opens up. There's a magnet in there, and it's got a little handle right there. So we're going to have to take that little handle out when we go to paper it, but I'm going to pull it open so you can see, and I'll tell you what my thoughts are. See how this opens up? So I'm thinking I'm going to make a couple of little like drawers that they don't come out, but I want them to house like vintage wooden spools. That's what I want to do there, and I don't know, maybe a pin cushion or something. That's what I'm going to do inside of there. And when I put the clock, the dial back in here, it's going to have different paper, and it's also going to have a sewing collage. And then right here, it'll be storage for scissors, measuring tape, seam ripper, whatever. And it does have a little drawer down here that whoever receives this can store buttons, whatever they want in there. You know, it's just going to be a small sewing kit. The box is not very big at all. I'll tell you the size of the box. It's about 5 3/4 inches wide, and the height from my desk to the top is about 6 1/8 of an inch. So it's a small box. It's not big, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. We just got in this paper, or my daughter did, and she's very generous with me. She's always giving me stuff to play with, see what I can create, so I can showcase her products. And well, I'm not complaining. This is the paper I'm going to use from Seven Gypsies, and the name of the paper pad, it's from the line is Architectures, but I believe this is the flea market find. I'm not for sure, but at the bottom of the video I'm going to post the links to any of the products that I'm using, so if you're interested, you'll be able to just click on the links, and I'm going to give you a little walk through the paper. It's beautiful paper. I'm thinking that I'm going to put something in here like this little, it says just add glue, mixed media. I like that little sign right there, but it comes with all kinds of, everything in here is vintage market, vintage signs, and you get 3 or 4 sheets of each. I'm going to say 4. You get 4 of each pattern, and they're double-sided. So there's the back to it. And then this side has the banners, and there's the back to it. The very light, very vintage looking, like a rose or peony. I think they're peonies, wallpaper look. So that's 4 of those. And then you have these cutouts. And the back to those cutouts are these, again, the very light peonies. And then there's another sheet with the numbers. And the back side of this is numbers as well, but I believe it's dark numbers. Yeah, there you go. There's the darker numbers. So you, like I said, you get 4 of each. Here's the other one. And then I'll show you the back to that. These are just more like vintage papers with nothing on them. And then it says create right up here. It's upside down, but when you flip it to the back, but that's what it says. So, and then here's another one that I really like. I love this one. Especially if you're making a man's card for Father's Day or anything like that. This would be the perfect paper, or a birthday or whatever. And here's the back to those. And there's a bunch of different accessories and trinkets and stuff that they made for this paper line. And I'm going to incorporate some of those. Now the paper I'm going to use on the box is going to be this one. But I'm not going to use this side. This is the back side to it. This is what I'm going to use. Very light. Very distressed looking. It looks like wallpaper that's ripped. So that's what I'm going to use on the box. Or one of them. And this one, I'm going to use this side on the box. And here's the back side to that with all these vintage looking screen doors. I really like that. Here's another one that's really nice. It's like, it looks like the paper is cracked. This one's real nice. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. I'm just kind of showing you what they look like. These frames are kind of pretty as well. And I might use one of these frames on the box. So there's that one. I wish I had the correct name for this paper. I think it's called Vintage Market or something. There's the back to that. Isn't that pretty? Here's another one with a bunch of little cutout signs. Very nice. I love this. And then all the last ones are like ledger paper. And that's what those look like. So this is the pad that I'm going to use for this. And now I'm going to show you some of the accessories. I'm going to use this. This is called From the Treasures. It's Architectures as well, but it's the Treasures. So it's this sewing machine. And this actually comes out without just the shape of the sewing machine. I don't have to use this whole thing because this is cut out already. So you can just peel out. I'll show you just the sewing machine. So I'm going to use that on the box because I am going to make it a sewing box. And so there's the sewing machine, and it's very dimensional. It's really, really nice. You know, it's even hard to explain. You would have to see it. And I'm also going to use the scissors in the same line. But this one's called, this is the Treasures. The sewing machine is the Treasures, and the scissors are Findings. And here are the scissors, and they're very dimensional, very raised. I don't know if you can see that, but it's raised. So I'm going to use the scissors and the sewing box. And I'm going to use another product that they came out with. And it's this, they're parchment rub-ons. And this particular one I'm using is, the name's Inspire. And I'm going to show you what it looks like open. I opened up one already. And I'll show you the pieces I'm going to use. I'm going to use this dress form. And I'm going to use this hand with the scissors. And I am going to add fabric and maybe little beads or something on the bracelet that she's wearing. So I'm going to embellish it even more after I've used the rub-ons. And then I love this spool holder. Like an iron spool holder, and it's got all the different spools on it. So I'm going to use that, and I might use other things, but so far that's what I have cut out. Now this is what the package looks like, and you can cut anything out of this and use it. This could even be a background on a card. And the inside, it's got a bunch of sayings that you could use on your projects, the front and the back. So there it is. So you don't waste anything. You use all of it. But I'm going to show you what the rub-ons look like. And they're going to be backwards because if I show you the back side, it's very light and you can't really see it. So I'm going to show you the side that goes on the paper. And I can't get all of it in there, but see the vintage sewing machine. And I love this. It says, make beautiful things, even if no one else cares. I really love that saying. And then there's one that says, here is a bit of me. I like that one. The scissors, there's the phone. Here's the spool, a hand with the spool of thread. So there's another spool. There's a bunch, another dress former, a bunch of things you can use. But I just cut out 3 pieces that I'm going to use. But I am, you know, it's possible that I'm going to add more to it. But I'll show you everything that I do. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give you a little bit of explanation how I'm gonna go about this. And then I'm going to meet you back whenever I'm done covering the box with my paper, and then we'll start to the good stuff, the decorating. You know, covering and all that is fine, you know, I like it, but for me the best part is when I'm adding all the embellishments and the finishing touches. That's when I really like it. So I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. I do have some of my things already cut out, so I'm going to show you. Oops, drop my scissors. For example, for the front, all I did was measure the piece across right there and then up and down from bottom to top. And I cut my piece out 1/8 of an inch shorter. And I'm going to show you the pieces that I cut out for that. And remember I showed you a piece that had a hinge on it and was very vintage looking. So that's the piece I'm going to use on the top. All I did was measure from here down and across, and I cut my piece. And so there's one. And then the second part to the hinge, I used the same sheet. This is going to go here, and there is going to be a border around them. So they're not going to line up exactly. The hinges are going to line up, but there is going to be a small gap in between the hinge. And then this is the last piece that I'm going to add on the drawer. And the reason I want it simple is because I want to add some of those rub-ons. For example, right here, I kind of want to add the hand that's got the scissors in it, and then I'm going to embellish. So that's what I'm going to put here. I've already decided on that. So that's one of the pieces. On here, the way I did the piece on here, I measured the width of the box. And I measured the length on just this bottom piece. On this bottom piece. And I did this piece on top separate because this curves. So I went ahead and measured about the center where the highest point on the lid is. And I cut the piece, the width of course, and the highest point. Then all I did, I'm going to show you just with the other piece I'm going to do for that. I already have one cut out. And after you have one cut out, the other one, you don't even really have to worry about it because all you do is, where's that piece? All you have to do is, well, I can't find it right this minute. I'm sure it's under my paper somewhere. Anyway, I put the strip of paper right here and I cut it to the widest point, which was the center of the lid. And after I put my paper down right here, all I did was bend the paper over the lid right here. I didn't have to do anything here because this was the correct width. But on the sides it was a little long because as you come down to the sides, the lid gets a little bit more narrow. So all I did was bend it and give it a crease, and I followed that crease with my scissors and cut it. Now with this piece, I can cut the other side. Just line them up together, face to face, and cut it. Front sides to front sides and cut it. It's kind of like when you're sewing. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause now. But remember, you're going to have to remove all the hinges, everything. If you want your project to look as close to perfect as possible, you want to take the time to remove the hinges and make sure you don't lose any screws or anything, because I want this to be beautiful. Now when I get to the top, I want to do some kind of a collage, maybe some wooden spools up here, maybe even the sewing machine propped up somehow, you know, because I want this to be a piece that when she leaves it out, it's a display piece and it's beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for now, and I showed you some of the projects, some of the products that I'm using. And like I said, all the links are going to be listed below. So if you want, get ready, cut out your papers, whatever paper you're going to use, whether you want to get this paper or any paper you already have. I don't always stick to, you know, something that I get in a kit or a paper line. I mix and match. But for this particular one, I do want to promote her products, so I'm going to go ahead and use the products that she gave me, you know, to help her out. So that's what I'm going to do. So go ahead and paper your box, and if you want to paint the edges in a different color, go ahead and do that, whether it be black, whether it be green, blue, whatever color you want to do. But all you have to do are the corners, all the edges. So if I was painting the top of this box, I would just paint the edge here all the way around. I wouldn't paint anything in the middle because it's going to be covered up. So all I would need would be like a little border around here. And same thing on the front. I would need a border around this square, the lid, and everything else the paper would cover up. So you would do that in all, and who knows, maybe afterwards I'm going to go back in. This has gold on the bottom. I might go back in afterwards and maybe add some black suet to it or something to make it a little more vintage looking. But for now, I'm going to keep the color as is, and I'm going to paper it, and then I'll come back to you. Thanks. Hi guys, this is Ida again. After I recorded the first part of this video, I told you to paper the box, to cover it with the paper from the paper line, but I didn't tell you how to do it. A lot of us know how to do it, but I know there are some that don't know how to do it. So let me explain that a little bit. Now my box is already covered, and I kind of got carried away. Once I start designing, I kind of forget. I get in my zone and I just keep going. So I had to make myself stop so you guys could see. I want you to see what I add and how I do it, and the glues and everything that I use. But first of all, I'm going to explain to you. When I said to cover it with pattern paper from the whichever line you choose, like I said, I chose this vintage, the Vintage Market. But what I use is Mod Podge. And all I do is get my brush. Here's my brush. And be careful when you keep this on your desk, because I always spill mine and it never fails, and I did it again yesterday. But all I do is dip it into the Mod Podge and brush it over my box, whatever side I happen to be doing. And then I get the paper, and I'll turn the paper to the back, and I'll brush a little bit of coating, light coating on the back of the paper, and then I adhere it to my box. And what I use is a, let me show you the tool that I use. You can use a brayer to make sure that you don't have a bunch of excess Mod Podge under your project. But I use this, and I got this at Hobby Lobby. It's made by Basic Gray, and it was actually with the rub-on stickers. It's dirty. I have to clean it. I use it all the time. I have 2 of them, and I love them. Anyway, after I apply my paper to my box, I'll go in with, it has like a fishtail end, so I'll go in with that, and I'll kind of squeegee everything out from the center out, and to get all the excess Mod Podge, and I'll keep a wipey or a damp rag or anything around, and I'll wipe all that off. Another thing I wanted to tell you as well, when you're Mod Podging, especially like an edge around here where your box opens, try not to get any of the Mod Podge right here in the frame where it closes, on the top, the lid, or the box, because when you do that, even though Mod Podge dries, it's still a little tacky. So it's not really tacky, but when you close the lid and open it, it tends to want to stick. So avoid getting anything in this border right here where the door is. So if you do get any, just quickly wipe it away. So all I did was I covered the whole box. Remember I told you to remove all the hinges, and I did before I added my paper. And there's the front of my box. Although I did add this rub-on from that page. If you recall, I showed you this one. And I added a few more, and I should have waited because this is supposed to be a process video. And then I proceeded to do my project and off camera. So I stopped there. I made myself stop, and here we go. And so there's the top, there's the front, and I like this old hinge that was printed on the paper. So I kind of, you know, cut the paper where this hinge would be right there. And here's the side of the box. And right here are two rub-ons, the metal rack that holds the thread holder, and then there's a bobbin and a button. And that's also with some of the rub-ons that I added on there. On the back, I haven't added any rub-ons, just pattern paper. There's the back. So on this side, I added another rub-on, which is the wire dress form that I was going to add. And I added part of it on the lid. I'll show you when I open it up. Part of it is on the lid, see? And the other part is down here. So, but when you close it, it's all together. So I added that on there as well. And then right here, it actually had the wire form, the number and all that, and I kind of like that, like it was in a shop somewhere that they were selling. So I went ahead and added that. Now I'm going to add, I'm going to remove this paper from here, get it out of my way, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to add a rub-on on here so you can see how it's done, and it's very simple. You remember that I showed you this one where it says create, and it's got it looks like a button. So I'm going to show you how to do this one. And let me see if I can zoom in right here so you guys can get a really close view of what I'm doing. I'm just going to put it across the lid on top right here, and I don't want it in the center. I'm going to put it off to the side right here. Now you have to be careful when you do this, and I'm going to tell you why. If your paper moves and you continue to rub on it, wherever you rub, that's where it's going to stick. And if it's shifted, then a part of your button will be here and another part will be somewhere else. So you have to be careful and make sure that it doesn't move. So I'm going to do the word create so you can see it. And what I do is try to hold it tight with my fingers like that, and I'll use the fishtail part of my tool to just kind of squeegee it on so it doesn't move. And you can tell when it's off the parchment paper because it gets really light, and you can tell that the word is not on the parchment anymore but on your project. So that's all I do. I'm just rubbing it. Now I've got all of this done. Let me scoot over right here to finish the last two, and I'm still holding it so it doesn't shift because I want everything to line up. There's the R, and now I'm going to finish the C. See how it shifted on me? So I'm just going to go in one direction because when I go back and forth, it tends to pull the paper to the front, kind of bunch it up. So I'm just going to rub in one direction, and I'm not sure that I'm liking it very well because, like I said, I did move it. Come on. I did move it a little bit. I can see I need a little part of the E there. So now I'm going to do the button, and I'm going to hold this there and there, and it's okay if there's the word create, and it's okay if the button moves because it's just the one individual piece by itself. And I want to put it on here. So I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to start rubbing it. So it'll be on my box. But see how it tends to want to move? So you got to be careful. Make sure your rub-on doesn't move. You don't have to add any water. You don't have to add anything to it. Just rub on it. And there's the button. And actually there's part of it still on my paper. I didn't get it all right, but and that's what happens when it does move. And this one did move a little bit, but I like things that look kind of distressed and where paint has come off and stuff like that. So I'm happy with the results. But if you're a perfectionist, of course, I mean, you can always tape it down with maybe with some washi tape while you do that. I just wanted to hold it. Another thing that I want to show you is that you remember I told you that in the packaging there's a lot of phrases that you can use, and I cut one out that was in the front part. That's why there's a piece missing. And there's a lot of different things on here, a lot of sayings on here. The one I liked and the one I'm going to use on my project, let me move that out of the way, is this one. It says, one man's junk is another man's treasure. Isn't that the truth? So I'm going to adhere this to my box somewhere. I don't know where I want it. And the reason why, it's hard for me to record a process video is because it takes me a long time to decide what I want where. And it would take just so long for me to just sit here and record everything I do, because a lot of times I'm not even doing anything. I'm just thinking, okay, what do I want to do next? For the top part, I want to put the sewing machine here on top. And let me grab that real quick. I had it somewhere. Let me move the box over and find here it is. Here's my sewing machine. I'm going to again move my water out of the way because I always tend to spill it. Here's the sewing machine, and I wanted to show you. I took it off the front where it was stuck, and I stuck it on the back because I don't know yet what I'm going to do with it. But I wanted to show you that the backing is not included. I mean, it's included, but you can, they're not attached. The only thing that comes off is whatever, if you only want the sewing machine, well, it comes out off by itself. And I wanted to be on the top of my box. Let me turn this towards you. Somehow like right here. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to put something in the back that will hold it up. That will hold it up there like that for me, because I want it to be standing up. I mean, you could lay it down flat and it would make a pretty box. But I like dimensional things. I like things to stand up and stick out and to be 3D and all that. So I want mine to be standing up like this. And I'm also somehow going to add the scissors right here, whether they're sticking out like this in the back or they're laying down somewhere. I don't know, but I would really prefer them like to stick out. Something like that. I want it to have a lot of depth to it. So I'm going to create something here, some kind of a little ledge or a little border where this could, where I can adhere this. And the only thing that's going to be adhered is going to be this little piece right here, and maybe a little part there, maybe a little piece of the needle over here, and everything else isn't. Now, because this is adhesive, it already has adhesive on it, I'm going to add Mod Podge to the back, anything that's not stuck to paper, to get that tackiness from the glue off. And either you could use baby powder or you can use Mod Podge or Multi-Matte Medium. I have Mod Podge, so that's what I'm going to use. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to create that little area right here to hold this. Now, if you recall, my box did have a lid, and I would have left that it had a handle, and I would have left it on, but I dropped it, and because the box was old, the handle broke, and I couldn't use it anymore. So I kept the pieces that I could, because I'm sure I'll do something with it, but my handle part broke. So I'm going to improvise. This is where I'm going to add the 3D dimension on top. So I'm just going to set this aside for now, and I'm not going to stick it back to the paper because it's kind of gets really stuck. But these pieces that are left, if you get any of these products, you're going to see that these pieces in the back are actually pattern pieces. So I'm going to cut this up just randomly, and I'm going to attach it to my box in different areas. That's what I'm going to do with this. Nothing goes to waste, like I said, including the packaging, because even when I'm done and I only use that one little phrase out of it, I'm still going to save it because there's a lot of great things in there that I really like. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the hinge that goes on here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And I am going to pause periodically to get situated and everything, but I'm going to show you what I did. I didn't want this piece to be from end to end, but it almost is from end to end. So I cut it 5 inches long, and I think this one is 1.25 inches wide from here to here. And the other piece, this one, is 5 inches long again, but it's only 1 inch wide. And this is going to go in the back. And this is going to be that little piece where we're going to be able to attach the sewing machine and the scissors or buttons, anything we want to put on there. This is going to, and it's going to have a hinge so it can fold back. If you were, let's say you were gifting this for somebody who doesn't live where you live, you could actually fold it back so it wouldn't get damaged or whatever. But if you want it to be all in the box, then you would have to put your sewing machine right here. So when you folded it back, when you laid it flat, it would still be on the lid of the box. Personally, the lady I'm giving this to is a very old friend of mine, and she lives here in town where I live, so I don't have to worry about that. But still, I'm going to give it that where she can fold it down. If she, let's say she's going to open the box, she can just fold that down. You don't have to, but if she wanted to, she could. And I'm going to show you what I did with the inside. I'm going to go ahead and show you that before I show you this, how to do this. And okay, and then another piece that I cut. This is called, it's not, is it Tay-Tex? I don't remember. Tex something. T-E-X. And it's made of, it's kind of like fabric, but you can't tear it. I had another piece up here. I wanted to show you how strong it is. I'll just show you on this. If I wanted to tear this, I can't tear it. This is not going to tear. So this comes in, I think it comes only in like 2 or 3 colors. I bought mine on Amazon, and it comes in a big roll. I bought black, and I bought like a tan color. And those are the only 2 colors I have left. And I've used a bunch of it, so I don't even have, not even a package left, because I've used a lot. I use it all the time, especially when I'm making the hinges for my memory books. This is what I would make my hinges. These would be my hinges, because it glues very well to paper, and it's not going to tear. So my hinges are never going to tear because this stuff doesn't rip. So this is what I'm going to use to make that, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I do want to show you the inside of the box. If you remember, this was a clock. This had a clock inside, and I told you that I took it off. So I'm going to show you what I did with it. I'm going to try and get really close. I put my friend's name in there, Maria. Let me see. Let me get closer to you. And I put a little pair of scissors, an old button, a couple of old buttons. And then I had these little mini thread spools, and I wrapped some pink thread on it. And I'm going to show you what I used to. I will tell you what I used to adhere everything in place. But this plastic cover comes off. So if she ever wanted to add a little keepsake or anything to that, this actually, you can take this off, add whatever you're going to, and then it snaps back on. And right here I used the Tim Holtz little square tiles that have letters on them. So there's M-A-R-I-A. And I positioned the scissors where it wouldn't cover up the letters. I put a little piece of lace in there underneath the scissors. Now the story behind this lace is I was making some fabric needle books, and I wanted to cover it in lace. And she works at a Goodwill. So she saw this dress, and she bought a dress, an old dress, and it was all covered in lace. So she bought it for me for that project. So I included a little piece of the lace here, and I'm also going to hang a little piece right here on the drawer, kind of sticking out, it's going to look like the drawer is overflowing with lace. So it's only going to be a little piece, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And this has this little knob here, and it's got hinges here. So this opens up, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do in there later. We're actually going to build a little shelf to go in there that will house little thread spools in it. That's what we're going to put in there, and I'll show you how to do that. For now, let's do the hinge that goes on top. So I'm going to close this up, and I showed you how to do the rub-ons, and that's all. This is the hand with the scissors that I had previously showed you. I do want to add a little lace right here to the wrist, and right here where her bracelet is, I want to add some little crystals or gems or pearls or anything. And I'm not just going to leave the rub-ons. I'm actually going to add like a metal bobbin, some real threads, and maybe even some dull needles with some, what do you call it? It's right here. Glossy accents. That's what I'm going to use to do that. Right now, let me just leave it out of the way. And in the back, I'm going to add something too. I just don't know what. So let's work on what's going to go on top of this. In order, when I did the letters inside, if I would have put them side by side, it would have been too wide. So I staggered them. But what I did on every other letter, I used the foam, the dimensional foam tape, and that's what I put underneath. And I mean, you can buy those sticky things, you know, that are made for scrapbooking. But I used this one by Scott, and it's like maybe a ½ inch. And I would just snip little pieces, and I put it under every other letter. So I'm going to leave that aside here. And now the good part about this piece that's going to go on top, you can actually use just little scraps. These are just little scraps of chipboard that I had. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to leave that there. And I am going to cover it in strips of paper that I haven't cut out, but we will in a minute. Now this glue, the Beacon 3-in-1, I use it a lot. So this is where we're going to attach our hinges with. And I'm not going to cover it yet with paper because I want to put pattern paper over the pieces. So I'm just going to put glue on this. And I think I'm going to need another bottle pretty soon because I've been using it quite a bit. And as long as you keep the lid on it, it's not going to dry up on you. So you should, you know, I try to be good about leaving my lid on it. And it is a clear glue, and it will dry clear. So there's that. Up. And here's my piece that I'm going to adhere to here. And I'm just going to line it up. I'm just going to line it up right there. Make sure, and it does have a little movement, so you have time to work with it right there. So I'm just going to set it down. And with my finger, I'm just going to kind of rub on it, make sure. Or I could use this tool, or you can use your bone folder, whatever you want to do. And this is going to stick really good. Okay, so the next piece, and that's going to go on this side, is going to be the bottom piece. And the thinner piece is the one that I'm going to use to that's the part I'm going to adhere to the box, and I'm going to do it with this glue. So here's the other piece. Let me go ahead and adhere it right here, and I'm going to leave a little space, not too much, but you can see there's a little gap in between. It doesn't have to be real big or anything. And I'm going to just press these down, make sure it's sticking really well. And I still haven't figured out, guys, how to set up my camera so you can be looking right over my right shoulder, because for me, when I look at something that when people are filming in front of me, especially beading or something like that, it's confusing. But if I'm looking over the person's right shoulder, then I know exactly what they're doing, and it's easier for me to follow. So here's the piece, and I'm going to cover it in paper first. I'm not going to cover the bottom that's going to go on the box. See right there? That's where that's going to stand. And the way we're going to get this to stand is I actually have an old wooden spool, and it has a needle going through it. I bought a box, an old sewing box at a thrift store, and it had all this stuff in it. So I'm gonna actually just attach that right. That's going to go right there. So this is going to go here, and this is what's going to keep our sewing machine standing straight, where it stays open, where it stays up like that. And whenever the recipient wants to fold it back, they can, because it's going to fold flat to the back. But the machine, I do believe the machine will stick part of the way off the box. Yes, it will. Now, if you don't want yours to do that, then what you're going to have to do is move your strip a little closer to the front of the lid and adhere it somewhere there. But mine, I'm okay with it there because I do want to add scissors and bobbins and different things to here. And always keep an eye out on your local Goodwills and thrift stores, because, and I didn't even, this box wasn't even a thought in my mind. I had bought a couple of tins full of old sewing needles and threads and buttons, and it had a bunch of spools of thread in it, and I gave them all away. I said, I don't need this. I'm not going to put this in the project I was working on. So I gave them all away. Now I wish I had kept some of those old wooden spools, because I could have put them on top of this box, and that would have been awesome, or inside the box. And now I don't have them. So there's that. But it's okay. So we're going to adhere this to here. But first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and cover it up with paper, with designer paper. And I'm going to add a strip there, the front. And I am going to add a strip here and a strip here, but not the bottom right here, because this is going to be on the box and nobody's going to see it. But you do want to cover up the pieces that everybody can see. Now this measures 1.25 inches wide by 5 inches across. So the strip that I'm going to cut is going to be 4 3/4 inches long by 1 inch and I'm going to say 1 1/8 inches high, because I want to try and cover most of it up. So that's what I'm going to do there. So, you know, I'm going to pause for now and cut those strips, and then I'm going to come back and show you what they look like. And I'm going to keep pausing whether if the phone's ringing or whatever's going on, because I have a busy household, especially now in the summer that the grandbabies are out of school and the phone ringing and all that. So I'm going to keep pausing, and that's going to be the reason. But, you know, by the time you're done with the box, you're going to love it. I don't care what. Your box doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Any box that you have, and it doesn't have to be wood. This one happens to be wood. And my husband actually found this box in the garbage, if I'm not mistaken. It's either that or I bought it at a thrift store. So it was, you know, somebody else's junk, and I'm going to make it treasure. So let me go ahead and pause for that. And I'm still going to use the same paper because I want everything to match. And, you know, even though I'm using different papers, this one has a little blue to it. Right here, just the wood with the hinge. And then on the top, it's got a little blue with a very pale peonies on it. And I did the same thing on the back. I used exactly the same thing on the front that I did on the back and the top. And the two sides have a different color paper, but it still coordinates. And this is the other pale color paper. This is the other pale paper with the roses on it. It looks like wallpaper's peeling. So I did that on both sides. But I could have used any combination of paper and it still would have looked good. I just try to match a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I'm going to get my strip covered up. And before I attach it up here, I'm going to show it to you. And I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to attach it and my sewing machine. So bye for now. Okay guys, I'm back. I went ahead and cut out my papers for that. You know, I didn't want my daughter to have to go in there and edit all of that stuff out or fast forward or anything like that. But here is my piece that I did. The hinge, remember this hinge, this is the bottom part, and this is going to sit like this on top of the box. And all I did to it was I took my Tim Holtz Distress ink, the walnut, and just kind of went around the edges, darkening the edges all the way around. I even did this little part because if I don't, then it's not going to look, it's going to be like the color of the cardboard. And this is not going to show, but this is. So I didn't want that to show. I went all the way around, front and back. I did the same thing. And after usually I'll go in there and I'll do the same to the paper. But this time I'm going to wait till after I have it on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and darken those edges as well. So I'm just using regular glue on this because it now I can go with this pattern paper right here and cover that up, and that will look fine on the box. Well, what I opted to do was use the same color paper I had already put on the lid of the box, the one with the pale blue with the peonies on it, and that's what I'm going to use to go on the box. So I'm going to go ahead and just add glue to this and adhere it, and because it is chipboard, it's going to stick, so we won't have any problems with that. It had a real pretty banner piece on the back that I would have liked to use, and I didn't. Well, I don't know if this glue is going to work for me because I put it away, and sorry guys. Okay guys, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I actually disconnected the phone line. I can't kick out the grandbabies, but I can disconnect the phone line. So hopefully we won't get any interruptions. Now I see down here that I have some glue, and I'm just going to go in with this little pick and kind of try and get it out. And it seems to be coming off fairly easy. That's good. It's great adhesive, but if you try to take it off before it's completely set, it comes off kind of like rubber, and that's good. I mean, you could use hot glue, but I didn't want to. Let me see if I can get this piece off of here and this one off of here. There it is. I need some tweezers, and I'm sure I have plenty of them, but okay, that's fine. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to attach the sewing machine. And I want the sewing machine to be standing up like this. But when I put it like that, I don't like the way that piece looks right there just in the middle. I would have preferred it to go all the way up, at least cover this hole. But there's another option. I'm actually going to put it up here. And you won't be able to see that. And it already has glue, so I'm not going to add any more glue to it. I'm just kind of going to glue it up here to the edge. Move it up to the edge where it's covering. There we go. This is where I'm going to glue it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now remember, I told you that the back was tacky. Now if my friend were going to travel with this, or you know, or she doesn't want to keep it on display, she could actually just fold this over to the back and it would be fine. See, it lays flat. But I personally would display it like this. I have a lot of things that I've created here in my craft room, and I keep them on display, and I love to do things that that I can leave them open and display them like that. If you go back on my YouTube channel, there's a lot of old projects that I have done that I keep on display. Now, isn't that beautiful? Look at the sewing machine up there on that box. Doesn't that look nice? Maybe not with the glue behind it, but it does look beautiful. And I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so you can get a better view of what it looks like. Now, isn't that beautiful? And there it is. So this old spool, I really like it. So I'm thinking I'm gonna put it here, or I can just actually put it behind here, and it will still look nice. I'm going to leave the needle that's stuck in there, and maybe I'm going to put like a little piece of thread, a couple of them, like it's hanging off of the sewing machine. What do you guys think? I think that would look awesome. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Hold on, let me see. Let me decide. Do I want it here? What do you guys think? I got to look at it myself. Do I want it there? This way. If I put it right here, what that does, it'll hold it open for me, because if I put it in the back, then we won't be able to close it. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna put it here, but I do want to put like a little piece of lace or something underneath, the thread, maybe like gather it up somehow right there and just put it up there. What do you guys think? I think that looks pretty good right there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a little piece of lace underneath it, and then I'm going to put the thread here and kind of hold this open as far as I want it. That way I know I can back this up as much as I need to in order for it to hold my box the way I want it. So it can either go there, because if I put it over here on this side, it's going to cover part of the machine up, and I don't want it to do that. I want to highlight all the machine. So I'm going to say we're going to put it right here with that little piece of lace on there. And then I am going to cut a piece of this thread and kind of glue it there, and 2 pieces, so it'll look like the sewing machine is actually threaded. Or actually I could just wrap it around there, run it down this way, and maybe through the back and run through the front. So I might even do that. So let me cut off a piece of this thread before I adhere it. And this seems to be like, oh, look at that. There's a piece already cut off. So I'm going to use this same glue. And see, my creative process is, I take a long time. And usually I'll keep this bottle upside down. So when I'm working on something, it's already the glue's to the tip of the box. So I'm just going to put a dab here. And I am going to add more after I add the spool, but this is just for that lacy piece that I'm going to add. Cover that up. Getting those spider webs. And I'm going to add this little piece right there. Make sure I got the right side. I'm going to add this. Just gather it right there. Let's pull it out a little bit. Right there. I'm going to gather that right there. Then I'm going to add more glue to the bottom of the spool here, and I'm going to stick this big needle in there, and let me see, right here. I want the thread to be going this way, and then I'll stick it in here so it can hold the thread in place right there. So we're going to glue this right there. Let's grab some glue. And this is going to be beautiful when it's done. I'm sure my friend will really, really like it. So I'm putting glue only to half of the spool. The front half doesn't need it because it's the lid is curved. And because the lid is curved, the thread where it's sitting, it's not going to sit all the way to the front. So just on half. And I'm going to open the lid because I want it to sit all the way as far back. Now under here, because of the lid being curved, this bottom part is not going to be touching. But what I am going to put in there is maybe stick some pieces of lace, maybe some flowers, maybe even some buttons. But I'm going to hold this down, let it dry for a little bit. See, this will hold the sewing machine where I wanted to, and I wish I had a smaller one, a spool to put there. Not as small as the ones I put in the little clock piece, but something a little, maybe half the size of this. So I'm going to have to hunt around and hopefully find an old spool. There it is. And I might even stick some foam or something in the middle. It's got a hole up here, and for that I can stick some foam in there and maybe some straight pins in there. So that seems to be holding up pretty well. Now I'm going to grab another piece of this exact lace, and we're going to put it in this little drawer. Now this box was already lined like with a velvety paper, and it's kind of like a rust color, and it's still in pretty good condition, so I'm not going to take it out and I'm not going to cover it. But if your box has it and it's kind of beat up, you can always either try and tear it out or just put some new paper, new velvet paper, or pattern paper in it. But mine's in good condition, so I'm going to leave it. And here's that black edging I told you about. You don't want any Mod Podge on that either. And the hinge on the back of this piece shows a black hinge in between, so it coordinates with the box anyway. It's okay that you can see that. But I am going to grab another little piece of that lace, and we're going to stick it to this drawer like the drawer is full of lace. I had to go grab that real quick. And it actually has like a tulle lining on the back, and I'm gonna cut that out. But anything that you have at home will work. So I'm just gonna lay this in the drawer like this, and it's gonna stick out like that. It's just gonna hang out like that, and I like the way that looks. So we're gonna add a little bit of glue. I'm not gonna add any up here because I don't want my box to stick. I'm gonna add some to the inside of the drawer and maybe a little dab. So right here in the corner where I want it, that's where I'm gonna put just a little dab of the glue. A little dab will do you. And attach the lace to it. I hope you guys can see. I'm gonna stick it back in here, but right in there, right here, is where I put the glue. And I'm gonna put the little bit of lace, and it has a thicker side on the inside. Maybe I'm gonna go like this. And right there, just right there in the corner at an angle. I didn't put it in straight, I put it in at an angle. And that's gonna stick there. Now, when I stick it back in the drawer, it doesn't have any glue up here, so it's not going to stick there. But I do need it to be tight, so when you close the drawer, it doesn't come off. So that's where we're going to add glue to the outside of the drawer and kind of put it in nice and snug and hold it for a little bit. So I'm going to take it out of the box, and I'm going to add maybe like a triangle of glue, and it's a very thin layer of glue that I'm going to put in there because I do want it to have some movement, but not too much, you know. There it is. And I'm just going to pull this tight right there and glue this little section down. So there's still movement here and over here and down there, but not right here where it's sticking, where I need it to be nice and tight so it won't cause any problems in the drawer. So there you go. And actually you could put a button there or anything. I might add something to that later, but for now it's just going to stick out like that. And I'll give you a view of what that looks like. Isn't that cute? Super cute. And like I told you, this is the lace that she actually gifted me. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more glue. And I think I'm just going to gather it a little bit like this. I want it to be a little gathered. I don't want to be so simple, just straight down, but like there be actual folds in the lace. So let me add another little dab of glue right here, just so I can gather this and it'll hold it. And I'm going to do likewise over here on the other side and kind of just pinch it up like that. See how it looks now? And I like that better with those little pinch in it. There we go. And I actually have a garment pin that I could have put through that. And I still can, and I might. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. But for now, you know, I'm just giving you ideas. I might not complete the whole project, like all the accessories that I'm going to put in it and stuff like that. I just want to give you a basic idea. And then, of course, you have your own things that you want to add to it. And that's a good part that you can add. And all I did was pull out paper clips that were little hangers, the little Tim Holtz garment pins that have different sayings on them. I pulled out some thread. I pulled out some, and I actually use things that are for crafts and things that are actual for sewing. I've got some pens here that I'm going to use. And I pulled out these little bobbins. And I pulled out this ribbon. I have this ribbon that has that. It's like a measuring tape, and it's actually a ribbon, and I believe I bought this at Hobby Lobby. And I'm gonna add a piece somewhere, probably up here. I'm gonna add a piece up there. So let's go ahead and cut a piece off of this, and we're gonna add it to the top. And again, we're gonna add it with with that same Beacon 3-in-1 glue. And I cut off this little piece, and I'm going to put it in the back somewhere because I want to start off with the 1 inch on here, and maybe I'm going to cut up to 6 inches. So it's just a little piece that I'm going to add here, and I'm just going to add little dabs of glue, and it's going to just be right there, and it's going to have movement in it. So let me go ahead and do that. I will put a little dab of glue right here on the lace, right here, there. And I'm going to add another little dab somewhere right there. I want it to stick. Let me add some more right here because it came off. Okay, there you go. So those two little areas are the only places that I need to put glue because this is really going to get tacked down really well. And like I said, I'm just giving it a little movement. And let it move up this. And there you go, there's that ribbon. And I think it's beautiful. And I did make sure that it's not covering the word create on there. And let me see, I know I had some, here's an old bobbin, a bobbin winder that I have here. I can actually attach that there, or I can lay it flat right there. I can put it anywhere that I want, and I don't like the green thread that's in it, so I might take that out or look for one that doesn't have anything in it. But this was in one of those old boxes that I found and went to somebody's sewing machine. But this would be really nice on there, and maybe even if I just left it up like that, that's really nice that way. So I think I'm gonna just put it in there like that. I'm just gonna put a dab of glue, and I'm gonna leave it there because I like the way it looks. I might not like the green, but that's okay. You know, we have bobbins in different colors. So I'm gonna add I'm gonna add glue to the bottom of the bobbin right here so it will stick. And a little bit to the back so I can get it to stick there. This glue that keeps coming out and coming out and coming out, you have to cover it up or else it'll continue to seep out. So I have to try and make sure I keep it covered. So here it is. I'm just going to put it in here. And I was going to lean it up against the sewing machine and glue it there, but if I do that, I can't glue it to the bottom because then it's going to move. When we go to close it, and let me see if the ribbon's going to give me that. No, the ribbon's fine. See how I'm closing it? And because the ribbon has movement, it's not going to create a problem for bending this down. So that's fine. But don't glue your bobbin because, like I said, I put glue in the back of mine to do that, and I won't be able to do that with that. But I do have a small pair of scissors. Here's a little charm. And I'm going to try and let me give you a close-up. And I'm going to try and see if I can glue these to the back of the bobbin and for it to show. I have to get up and get back here because I put glue on it. Or maybe we'll put them in here. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Oh, no. I already know what I'm going to put in there. I have a bigger pair that I'm going to, I don't know if they'll go in there, but I'm going to try to put them up there. Okay, so there's our bobbin. And hopefully it will stick. There's our sewing machine. Now we have our scissors. Let me move this little piece of ribbon, and don't throw anything away. Anything that I have, I'm going to use. Now, where can we put these scissors? We can probably stick them. So I'm going to take these off, and if you know, notice they have that piece on the inside. I believe that, yep, that comes off. So the only thing we're going to get are the scissors, and not what the filling that's in the handles. There we go. There you go. And they're very dimensional. They're really, really nice. We can probably stick these. Let me see. This is the way they go. Maybe straight up and down. Maybe at an angle right here. I think I'm going to put them right in. Where do I want them? They're beautiful. I hate to cover them up. I want them to show. But I don't want to put them behind the sewing machine. Maybe sticking straight up right there. This might be good right there. Oh yeah. Let me zoom out, guys, because I want you to see. See the scissors up here behind the spool? So that would be a good place for them. And they're not really stuck on there. I want to be able to move them. I can lean it this way, but then it'll be encroaching on the sewing machine. And I don't want to do that. I don't want them to stick so far out. Not really straight up and down. I want them at an angle. So I think I'm just going to leave them here, guys. Okay, let me see. So I'm just going to leave them there, guys. And I hope you can get a good picture or a good idea of how they look. I don't know how good my lighting is in here, but I was going to stick a pair of scissors in here, and I still might do that because, you know, us seamstress, I have a bunch of scissors. I have a whole box of scissors because I sew and I do paperwork and stuff like, you know, scrapbooking and stuff like that. So I have a bunch everywhere. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take, remember that piece of paper where the sewing machine was on. So we're going to take these pieces and we're going to adhere them here and there because they are pieces of pattern is what's printed on them. And they're 3D, they're dimensional. So I'm just going to cut, maybe snip it right there. And I'm just going to take this little piece and I'm going to put it somewhere. And I'm going to snip it right there. And I'll take this and I'll just add it anywhere on my box and it's going to look good. It doesn't matter. The hinge is there. I don't want to be in the way of the hinge. So I'm not going to put it there. Maybe down here. I don't want it there. I'm going to put it right in this corner right here. And there's the pattern piece of paper, of the dimensional paper that the scissors and the sewing machine were on. Stuck it right there. I'm going to take another piece, maybe this bigger corner, and I'm going to stick it up here somewhere. So just get my scissors down in there and snip it. And here's that other bigger piece. And I'm going to go down here to the back of my box. And I'm going to stick it right here in the corner of the box. I'm just going to adhere it right there. And there it is. And all it is the leftover pieces to my sewing machine. And there you go. That's the pattern. And I can actually adhere some buttons and maybe some fabric there. And it would look good. Maybe some more of that lace. So here's another piece. And this piece, I'm just going to add it. I'm going to add it back here on the lid. You know, I'm going to cut this off right here. I'm going to cut this off right here. And I'm going to, that way I'll have a couple pieces to adhere somewhere. And one of these pieces is going to go, nope, I was hoping to put it up there. I'm going to move it right here to the corner. There's that piece. And here's another corner piece that I can add wherever. Let me decide where I want it. Maybe I'm going to add it to this corner as well. It can't go like that. It'll have to go like that. And all it looks like is pieces of pattern paper, printed pattern paper. Like there's still pieces on there. And now I have another piece over here which is a bigger piece, and we're going to find a spot for this one. Let me see. I don't want it there. It's too tall to go on this drawer. It would look nice on this drawer, but I believe it's too tall. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Here it is. I just placed it on this drawer, on the bottom corner of the drawer. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in, and there you go. There's the pattern piece. And I like the way that looks, and I'm actually going to add some buttons. You know what? Maybe not. Let me see if I can get it off without ruining. If I can get it off without ruining the piece, I'll go ahead and get it off. But if not, I'll just leave it. It's coming off. It's coming off. Good. Where can I put this? Where can I put this? Not there. Not there. Not. I want to put it somewhere. I just don't know where. I don't want to waste it, because it's very dimensional. It's really nice. And this was, remember, was in the inside of the sewing machine. No, I'm not going to use this bigger piece. I'm going to save it for another project. So I'm done with that. I'm not going to use that. So I think the box is looking really well. But remember, I told you that the box, the scissors on the back, and the sewing machine will be tacky on the back. So here's where I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to coat the backs of both of these things so they won't be tacky, to get rid of the tackiness. Now you could have easily adhered them to a backing piece, but I didn't want to. I just wanted. So here it is. All I'm doing is brushing some Mod Podge on it. You know what? I'm going to wait for that because, and here are the scissors. I'm going to wait to finish that because I want to wrap some thread on that sewing machine. Make sure I don't have any extra on there. That should be it. Put that away. Now, usually when I get done with a project, I will go over my project with Mod Podge just to seal it in. And Mod Podge comes in different. There's this matte one, then there's a vintage one, and then there's one that's high gloss or in just gloss. And I use the vintage one or the matte. Those are my the ones I prefer to use. Now there are a couple other things that I cut out of the paper line, which was this dress form out of the ticket, out of the packaging. Remember I told you there was a lot of things. This I'm going to save. I did cut out several things. They're somewhere under all my stuff I got here. Let me see. There's this ticket, and this says old scissors. I might actually add this somewhere right here and let it be under the pattern paper, or maybe even back here in the corner. Maybe back here is where I'm going to put it. And then there's another piece that had a thread with a thimble. And I need to find a thimble that I can put in it. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to add these. I think the dress form and maybe even the thread are going to go on the inside of the box. But this little one man's treasures and that, I might put it back here or even up here on the lid. What do you guys think? It's so cute. And it's so true. Maybe even back here. I think it would look cute right there. Let me turn it to the front. Let's see what we have going on in the front. Maybe we'll put it in the front. Who knows? I know I want to add one of these garment pins right here, probably to this lace right here. I'll just pin it in there. And I'm going to add some buttons there too as well. This can go here. No. it can go down here on the drawer, and that would be super cute right there. Yes, that, I think that's where I'm going to put it, because I want it to be visible. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to edge it with my Distress ink, just so I won't have any white edges on it. So there it is. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, I don't know if I want to, I'm going to add this glue to it. I'm going to use the beacon. Normally I would have used the Mod Podge, but because this has like a coating on it, because it was the packaging, I want to make sure it's not going to fall off. So I'm going to use this right here. And just a little bit of it goes a long way. Put that in there. And I'm going to put it down here. One man's junk is another man's treasure. And I'm going to try and make sure that it is centered. It's straight. That looks pretty good. I really like the way that looks. And that's gonna go in here. And you guys tell me what you think. Isn't that super cute? Isn't that? And then we can add some buttons right here. I don't think I'm gonna add anything right there, but I will add some buttons here. I don't know. I got a little white right here where I took off that pattern paper. But let me see if I can cover it up with this brown, and that's all we'll need. Yeah, that's good. I won't need to add anything there. So there is what the sewing box looks like so far. So now I'm going to take that piece of thread. Remember, there was this piece of thread that I took off the spool. So I'm going to attach this to the back right here of the thread. And I had already taken and I'm going to wrap and wrap. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm wrapping the spool that was on there. I'm wrapping the thread around that. Let me get to the bottom here. Yes. Oh, that's going to be super cute. And then I'm going to go, actually I'm going to add more to it, because I don't want to cut off too much, and hopefully I'll cover up the other color that was already printed on the paper. So we'll do that and make it look dimensional. Oops. Go all the way around the spool. And then I am going to add some glue back there to keep it from unraveling. So now that I have it this way, I'm going to just go around this. Hopefully it still has glue on it. I think it does, because I stopped. Okay. No, you know what? I'm going to go around the front of this and wrap around to the back again, because I want my thread to come out the bottom of where the needle is. And I want it to look, come on. I have to get up, guys, because I can't see what I'm doing, and I'm hoping I am in frame and that you guys can see what I'm doing. But it has a little knob up here that my thread is wrapped on, and I'm going to come back down this way. Remember, I stopped putting the Mod Podge on the back. Well, this was the reason, because I want this thread to come out through the back like if the sewing machine is threaded. I wanted to come up through there, but I want it to be two pieces that are coming out through there. So there's one. So I am going to have to snip it and add a second piece to it, and it's just going to be a little piece. Because usually sewing machines, you'll have your bobbin thread and your thread that's on your machine. So there's another piece. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can glue this back up here. Yep. And here are the 2 threads that are sticking out of my machine. How's that? Awesome. Awesome. Oh yeah. So let me give you a close-up of the sewing machine threaded. And do you see the threads coming out? Let me get a little closer. You see the threads right there? So that's all I did to it. So I even altered that little piece that was altered. Now I am going to turn it to the back. And now I'm going to completely cover all of it, even the thread that I just added with Mod Podge, in order to seal it, and it will act as a glue as well. So it will be glued down. It'll be glued down right here. See back here where the thread is? I'm going to cover that, and then I'm going to go back here where I threaded it and put Mod Podge on that. Mod Podge on the whole sewing machine so there won't be anything sticky on it. There. And the same with the scissors. Go ahead and give it another coat. That way there is no sticky back on anything. Oh, that's going to be awesome. I think she's going to like it. And when I say that I seal it, all I do is I go in with my Mod Podge after my papers are dry, and I just give it a light coat to protect it, because it does give it a seal to it. It does seal it, a coating on it. So for now we're done with that. And I'm going to move this over here. Now I still have another little piece, a little bobbin, but I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Let me turn this around, and here's my garment pin. And I'm just going to open that up, because these do open up. And I'm going to stick it through that little piece of lace that's in here. I could use some, and close it back up. And there it's going to hang there. There's the garment piece. And I like it just loose like there. You could use the glossy accents to seal it, to apply it there, but then you wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't have any movement or anything, but it will hold it. I have a hanger right here that I think I'm going to... Hi guys, sorry about that. My camera shut off. I don't know if my battery's going dead or what, but I haven't really done anything, but I just added this little piece that I cut off from the packaging to the back, and I attached it with some dimensional tape. And I have this little Tim Holtz, it says Remnants on there, and I'm attaching that with the E6. Okay guys, I'm back with my finished box. My battery went dead, so I'm sorry about that, but mostly everything that I did was more of a decorative thing. I added an old spool that I had bought that came in an old sewing box that I bought. Another one of those little pair of scissors that I used on the inside. And I made a couple of little pattern packages, and I stuffed some of that leftover, the paper with the rub-ons. It feels and it looks a lot like pattern paper, so that's what I stuffed in here. The only other product that I did use that I didn't show you in the beginning was this set of stamps. And I'll show you where you'll see where I used it. I would have liked to have had something that said buttons or something, but I didn't have anything like that. But I did have this, and this is also available, so I'll put the link to this below as well. And I did use this throughout the whole box, and I'll show you where I use stamps and where I use rub-ons. And I have a whole lot of rub-ons left. Like, I only used a few pieces. Like, this will last me for several projects. So here's the finished thing, the finished product. I added some of my roses that I had in the blues and the pinks and the greens. I added these little packages I've made of old pattern papers. And I threaded the sewing machine, if you recall, to look like it was threaded. So here are the strings to the sewing machine, and it looks like it is threaded. I added an old bobbin that was in the box and some buttons that are vintage buttons, but they're really not. They're new, but they just look old. The piece of lace, I just added a button to the piece of lace. And here in the bottom is that one man's junk is another man's treasure saying. I absolutely love that. Now, this hand right here that's holding the scissors, that's the rub-on. But the stitches here is the stamp set. The create up here is a rub-on, but the stitching again is that same stamp set. And you'll see the stitching throughout the box. So I'm going to turn it to this side. And here's the thimble that's on the stamp set. And these right here are both rub-ons. And here are the little leftover pieces from where the sewing machine was on. And it looks like cut up pattern paper, but it's dimensional. And then this little sticker, if you can see it, it's a little sewing machine, a vintage sewing machine that was in the package. So I didn't waste anything. I used everything I could from the package. And what wasn't a sewing theme, I saved for another project because I know I can use them on something else. So I didn't waste anything. Now I'm going to turn it to the back. This spool of lace down here, this one, and this, it looks like the front of a shirt that has lace and buttons and a buttonhole. Those are in the stamp set, and so are the pins up here. Those are in the stamp set. And this little piece was part of the packaging, and it says old scissors. And here's another one of those vintage buttons. And the measuring tape up here was on the stamp set. And of course, here's the other pieces to the package where the sewing. And on this side, all I did was use the rub-on dress form. And this again is the stitching from the stamp set. I used one of those little metal pieces from Tim Holtz that says remnants on it. And I think I already showed you the back. And I'm going to show you the inside of the box. Now in this drawer I didn't do much but attach that little piece of lace. And remember I told you don't add glue to the top edge of the drawer because then your drawer is going to stick. So I only glued it a little bit on the inside and I glued it on the outside. And I adhered another one of those buttons that was in that vintage package. And I'm going to show you what the inside looks like. This little clothes hanger right here is, I believe, a Tim Holtz product as well. And it's just a paper clip that I just attached to the ribbon, kind of slid it into the ribbon. So I'm going to open the inside. And this little garment pin is also Tim Holtz. So I'm going to open the inside. And I believe I already showed you this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you anyway. If you notice that I wrote the name Maria in here, but these are Tim Holtz letters, these little tiles with letters on them. But the little piece up here, that's from the packaging, the thread with the little thimble and the needle going through it. So I added that in there, and I didn't have it in before. Here's another little dress form that was from the packaging as well, and I adhered it with some dimensional tape so it wouldn't be flat, give it a more 3D look. And then I'm going to open the inside and I'm going to show you what I did on the inside. I haven't filled the box, and that's probably going to take some time because I do want to find some old vintage wooden spools. I made a little lip here that would house sewing threads. And see the stitching in there? If you can see that stitching, that's also on the stamp set, and so was the scissors. And real light in here, the pink, is the spool that has the lace in it. So I went ahead and added some lace here and trimmed it with some vintage champagne pearls. And right here is the label to the package, Architectures. So that's all I did, and actually you can store in here. You have little room in here to store, and then a little room here. And because this lid is 1/4 of an inch thick, it slides right into here, so nothing's going to fall out. and the paper line has a lot of that rust color going through it, so it matches the inside of the box. It probably looks dark right now, but it's actually a rust color, very similar to the color of the thread that I use. But she can display it like that with her name out, you know, if she wants to keep it open if she's working on something, or but when she's done, you know, you just close it up, and it has a very strong magnet, and the box already came like that. I didn't do anything to the box but alter it, and I just close it up, and that's the finished product, guys. And a lot of, like I said, this lace is also a Goodwill find. You know, was a dress and I tore pieces off, and that's all it is. And then I'm going to fill the box, but I just hope that you like this project, and all the products are going to be listed below. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, and I will continue to work on different projects, and hopefully you guys can get inspired with the products that I'm using, and come up with your own creations. You know, I subscribe to several people, so maybe you're one of those people that I subscribe to, and I'll be able to enjoy your videos, because I really do learn a lot from watching the videos. So I want to give back a little bit of what I learned, you know, also on YouTube, where other people can get inspired and create. But, you know, and a lot of times I'll see a product and they don't say where they got it from. So I'm going to try and make sure that whenever I put a project up, that I'll list the products. That way, if anybody's interested and they want to make something similar or exact, they can find the products and know exactly what I did. For the pattern packages, all I did was go on Google and Googled some old images of some old patterns, and I printed them out, and I spaced them out enough that I could make it into a little pouch or a pattern package. And that's all I did. I mean, nothing crazy or anything, and just whatever I had left from the parchment paper, the rub-ons, I folded them up and stuck them in there and glued them a little bit so they wouldn't come out. But that's all I did to it, you know, and that can easily be reproduced. So thanks for watching, you guys, and if you haven't subscribed to me yet, go ahead and subscribe. Hopefully you'll find something interesting and fun in there. Thanks, guys. Bye.